Hello everyone, welcome back to ELC-Studies. Today we are going to talk about another important critic, John Dryden, who is known as the father of English criticism. So let's talk about the life of John Dryden first. He was born in 1631 in village Aldwinkle, Northamptonshire, and he was brought up in a very strict puritanical faith. He was an educated man of his age, especially in classics. He wrote poems to welcome Charles II and became poet laureate and royal historiographer in 1670. He started his career by writing narrative poems first, but when the theatre opened, he turned to drama or plays and wrote stage plays according to the demands of public. He was the best literary man in London. At the age of 50, he turned from dramatic work to religion and politics and wrote numerous prose and poetical treatises with less puritanical views. At Revolution of 1688, he refused elegancies of William of Orange and he was deprived of all his offices and pensions, and literature became the only mean of livelihood for him. Then he started writing every kind of work a man would pay for example, plays, poems, prefaces, eulogies for funeral occasions. And from the literary point of view, these last years, troubled years of Dryden, were the best. He was died in 1700 and buried near Chaucer in Westminster Abbey. He wrote abundantly for 40 years. He was a very mild and kind person of domestic virtues. In his imaginations, ideals, wits, and workmanship, he was as much as Shakespeare, Spenser, or Milton. Let's discuss works of John Dryden. His works includes dramas, poems, prose, and criticism. So first of all, if we talk about dramas, so his numerous dramas falls into the obscurity. Now and then they contains a bit of excellent lyric poetry, and they were the chief representation of French Revolution which followed Restoration. His drama includes All for Love, Anthony and Cleopatra. If we talk about the poems of John Dryden, so force, vigor, tuneful majesty are the styles of him that differentiate him from all others. Controversial and satirical poems are on the higher plane, where the styles were cutting and revengeful rather than witty. His three notable poems are Absalom and Achitophel, which is a political style. Number 2 is Annus Mirabilis, which is narrative poetry. And number 3 is Alexander's Feast, which is an ode and one of the best in English. Next is prose and criticism. Dryden gave less care for style and ornamentation, and he take more pains to state his thoughts clearly and concisely. And his criticism is used as prefaces or introductions to his poetry instead of published as an independent work. His four best known work includes Preface to the Fables, Of Heroic Plays, Discourse on Satire, and Essay of Dramatic Poesy 1668, which lay a foundation for all literary criticism. Now we are going to study Dryden's Essay of Dramatic Poesy in detail. So let's get started. First of all, we will study the background of this essay. Number 1 point is French alchemy. New classicism flourished in France during the period from Ben Jonson to Dryden and influenced English writers greatly. Renaissance scholars emphasized great respect for the authority of classical scholars dominated in 17th century. The French alchemy in France, which was founded in 1655, established as a center of authority in literary matters. Next is Boileau. He was a significant literary critic and a French poet, and he was a lawmaker or legislator in domain of literature. He expresses opinions and beliefs in an authoritative manner about poetry without any hesitation, and he relied on ancient authorities to settle problems. This person enforced the three unities of action, time, and place, and he trusted on reason and good sense instead of native genius. He imposed restrictions on subject matter and versification also. But Dryden's views were different from Boileau. He was a passionate neoclassicist and he preferred common sense over good sense. Dryden rejected blind obedience to authority and he believed that writers are the products of their age and country and cannot be judged solely by ancient masterpieces, etc. His essay of dramatic poesy defended English plays against the preference given to French plays and aimed to vindicate the Elizabethan and Jacobean dramatists. The purpose of the essay. Dryden wrote this essay to protect the honor of English writers from the criticism of those who favored French plays. Moreover, he wrote this essay in response to Samuel Sorbayer's disparaging remarks about English comedies. Samuel Sorbayer visited England in 1663 and in his way back to France, he wrote an account of his voyage, in which he shows his bad remarks about English comedies. And Dryden wrote this essay in 1655 to 1666 during plague years, and this essay was published in 1668. Moving forward to content of the essay. So this essay is written in dialogue form among four characters, Crites, Eugenius, Lycidius, and Neander. Eliot compared it with dialogues of Plato. In the opening pages, there is a general conversation without any argument, and they all characters accept a loose definition of play, which is a lively representation of human nature for delight and instruction. So, this essay is written in 6 sets of speeches between Crites versus Eugenius, Lycidius versus Neander, and Crites versus Neander. Conflicting views on various aspects of drama are discussed without reaching a definite conclusion, and it is left to the judgment of readers. The whole essay is set on river themes during Battle of June 1665, with classical named characters representing real people, where the Neander is Dryden himself. The first dialogue was held between Crites and Eugenius, where Crites were sporting ancients and Eugenius were sporting modern dramatists. Crites argues that dramatic art reached its maturity in ancient Greece due to the universal genius of that era. He also claims that dramatists in later periods were less esteemed and lack of desire to excel. Crites discusses the merits of unities and emphasizes the ancient superior power of expression in superlative degree, as evidenced by their influence on Ben Jonson. While Eugenius asserts that modern dramatists have actually improved upon the works of the ancients, he highlights the defects of ancient dramas, such as structural flaws, hackneyed plots, limited characterization, disregard for their own rules, etc. He also criticizes the moral teachings in ancient plays, but hesitates to judge them solely on modern concepts like wit. And Crites acknowledges at the end that potential for change of ancients if they lived in the later times. A second contrastive dialogue is held between Lycidius and Neander, where Lycidius defends French plays while Neander defends English plays. Lycidius argues that English plays were superior to French plays 40 years ago, but political troubles hindered their progress. French plays have become incomparable in Europe due to several reasons. He also says that French dramatists strictly follow the three unities and avoid absurd tragicomedies. He says that French plots were based on familiar history and modified for dramatic purposes, while Shakespeare's historical plays were more chronicles to kings, condensing years into the hours unnaturally. French dramatists excelled in economical plotting and selecting significant details, and they were skilled in narrative explaining incidents that could not be represented on stage, such as duels, battles, and scenes of cruelty. While defending French plays, Lycidius says that they had effective characterization, logical plot development, and used rhyme instead of blank verse. Neander concedes the regularity and decorum of French plays, but argues that they lack a connection with actual life. He disapproves the rigid speculation between tragi and comedic elements in French plays and their exclusions of minor episodes and underplots. Neander believes that English audience seek amusements from the stage and finds the impatient appeal of French plays boring. He criticizes the French use of narrative to avoid scenes of violence, which were a part of English traditions. He argues that English plays have their own qualities that make them more effective, such as being more original, varied, and spirited. He praises Shakespeare as the most comprehensive poet and Johnson as the most learned and judicious of dramatists. The last set of dialogues held between Critic, who was defending blank verse, and Neander, who was defending rhyme. Critic says that rhyme is not the only form of verse necessary for English writers, and Shakespeare, Fletcher, and Johnson wrote successful plays without rhyme which were accepted by the people. While Neander says that rhyme has reached a level of perfection in the present age and it adds maturity to the verse. He also says that the judgment of the common people is not always reliable and it is important to introduce new forms of verse to the audience. Critic again says that Aristotle advocated for writing tragedy in the verse closest to the prose, which is a blank verse, and rhyme is an unnatural and artificial form of expression, and dialogue in plays should imitate natural. While Neander says that blank verse is in fact measured prose and lacks the qualities of true verse, rhyme can be as natural as blank verse with well played verse. Plays represents an elevated form of nature and rhyme can enhance the weight, passion and descriptions, making it more poignant. Critic says that rhyme is a visible sign of art and it goes against the principle of concealing art, while Neander says that rhyme, like the shadowing of a painter, becomes overshadowed by other beauties of the work and its artifice is diminished. Critic again says that rhyme restricts the expression of both high and low thoughts. It is unfitting for expressing ordinary things. While Neander says that poets' mastery of language allows for the appropriate choice of words to clothe ordinary things in a noble and significant manner. Thank you so much for watching. So this was all about our today's discussion. And I trust you found this lesson valuable. Don't forget to subscribe for more engaging videos like this. Stay tuned and keep learning.